Richard Dawkins, one of the most famous atheists of the 21st century, is noted for asking the age-old question, if God created the universe, then who created God? He then goes on to state that if it is illogical for the building blocks of the universe to pop into existence, then it is even more illogical to assume that an all-knowing, all-powerful God could simply arrive out of nowhere. This is an extremely intelligent response to creationism, but it has a major flaw: God was not created. God is eternal. Dawkins would probably add that if it is logical to assume that God is eternal, then it is even more logical to state that the basic element of the universe could also be eternal. He is willing to accept the concept of an impersonal force of eternal energy, but is quite unwilling to accept this force as a personal and intelligent creator. I suggest that Dawkins' problem has more to do with his dislike for the God of the Bible than the idea of an intelligent force creating the universe. However, he holds to his faith in evolution as fiercely as most Christians defend the Holy Scriptures. Based on his previous interviews, Dawkins would be more willing to admit that planet Earth was created by aliens than by the Christian God of the Bible. To Dawkins, the Darwinian theory of evolution represents the answer to how life evolved in its current state on planet Earth. He begins with the assumption that there are no supernatural forces in the universe. His reasoning is that since God does not exist, then evolution is the only rational alternative based on his view of the scientific method. Even though the theory of evolution makes logical sense to people who do not believe in the supernatural, there are still questions that evolutionists cannot answer. 1. How does something come from nothing? 2. If something has always existed, then how did it create life? 3. How does evolution explain human consciousness? A scientist might try to answer these questions by claiming that something has always existed that was able to give birth to the universe, that chemical molecules were formed that were able to morph into simple living organisms that would eventually give birth to a conscious mind. They claim that this process took billions of years and was the product of the blind forces of nature that had nothing to do with intelligent design. But this series of assumptions still does not answer where that something came from, and they can only speculate that it must have always been in existence. This seemed to fit the definition of faith that they strongly oppose in favor of scientific evidence. They also tend to gloss over the intricate design of the universe and the evidence of intelligent information contained in living organisms. What the evolutionists want you to believe is the equivalent of accepting that a Webster's dictionary fell out of the sky after an explosion in a print factory. Even if it was an extremely large explosion that lasted billions of years, it still doesn't make logical sense. However, I warn Christians who believe they can prove the existence of God using the scientific method. While God can be inferred by the philosophy of science, it will never prove the existence of God with mathematical certainty. God is not a product of nature and therefore cannot be reduced to a scientific theory. God is supernatural and not subject to laws of our physical universe. If Christians cannot prove the existence of God using science, then why do we believe in God? The answer is that God has revealed himself directly to human beings. God revealed himself to Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, Joshua, David, Solomon, Daniel, etc. The list of people who had a direct visitation from an angel or even God himself is an extremely long list. The record of these revelations have been handed down to us in the Bible. The Christian believes that the Holy Scriptures are historical evidence of the existence of God, the creator of the universe. Not to mention that Jesus Christ came to earth, fulfilled Bible prophecy, performed miracles, and resurrected from the dead. This is why we believe in the existence of God. God has revealed himself to humanity. Christians admit that we cannot explain the existence of an eternal God. But this is exactly what God has revealed to humanity. Yes, it takes an element of faith to believe all that God has spoken. However, this faith is based on reasonable evidence that is logical and can be demonstrated throughout the documents of human history. Dawkins' dogmatic assumptions involving his atheism would probably not change much if God appeared to him in physical form. Dawkins might think that it was an illusion or a magic trick. He might even think he was hallucinating. But I doubt that he would ever admit to the existence of God. In his mind, God doesn't exist, therefore there is no evidence of his existence. This is the height of irrationality. The Bible says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." The rest of the Bible depends on those words being truth. God speaks, therefore he exists.